Hello. Today I wanted to share with you one of my sort of a recent purchases that I've made on AliExpress. The fountain pen is made by Hongdian and is the N1S. This is the piston filler version. Uh, I believe there's another version of this fountain pen called only N1, and that one is just a regular pen with an inside cartridge, no actual piston filler. Just to pretty much say it from the beginning, personally, I'm actually very, very pleasantly surprised by this fountain pen. I like the shape, I like the design, and I even like the way the piston mechanism works. It's the version that I have. It's a translucent acrylic and kind of mimics a slushy of mango chunks, or at least that's how I see it, and with gold trims. As I glide my fingers across the pen, everything seems to be in perfect order. You know, sometimes fountain pens they have these rings that are not perfectly aligning, and it might look smooth on one side, but on the other side is like a little bit of step up that your fingers or your nail catches on. Well, this fountain pen, at least the copy that I have, doesn't have any step ups anywhere. It's just, it feels beautiful, like any pen should feel like. Even the ring here, nothing out of the ordinary. Everything gets out of place. I mean, not out of ordinary. Everything gets perfectly aligned, no sharp edges. Even the top finial, even though you have these step ups, they nicely smooth at the ends. So there's nothing sharp in there. The clip, it's what I consider a perfect clip. Like it has the right tension, is not flopping about, and believe it or not, hold on, it's centered. It's not crooked to the left or to the right. Jin Hao and Moonman, yes. Okay, so yeah, the clip is nice, aligns perfectly. The top finial, the only of the very few things that I find negative in a way, it's that the branding at the top, it's printed on, not stamped. I much prefer their caps with the stamped finials. And it has this nice dove design. I assume it's a dove with Hondiang and World Peace inscription. The only bad thing that I could find about this fountain pen is the actual cap. The cap is actually very weighted at the top, while it posts quite beautifully and deep. You actually feel a little bit of weight difference with the cap on. So posted, it goes about this much deep. Probably if we could have went a little bit further, it would have been nicer. But even like this, it's okay. It's perfect. Nothing wrong with it. The only problem is the cap. Like I said, it's very top heavy. The balance of the cap, it's somewhere in there. So there's a lot of weight in here. I mean, you have to put it this far in order to balance out. So again, going on the balance part, if we balance the pen, it's almost perfectly balanced right in the middle. But as soon as you put the cap on, the balance shifts quite drastically towards the end of the pen, somewhere in there. So if I have to remove the cap, the balance will be literally at the end of the pen. Sticking with the cap has a nice plastic liner inside, and there's no chance that screw or whatever it is will get ink on it and rust. So the cap should be very, very nice and easy to clean. Again, I don't find any sharp edges, even putting your fingers inside of it and feeling the inside lip, nothing. Very smooth. It matches, matches the transition between the metal and the inner cap. It's just as smooth as outside. Actually smoother, to be honest. You feel it a little bit here, but you don't feel anything right here. Anyway, that's about it about a cap. So like I said, if you post it and your writing position is a little bit more flat on the table, you kind of cradle the pen in here. As you downstroke, you'll feel the weight of the pen here and you'll have to fight a little bit harder. So you might find it annoying a little bit for long time sessions. However, if you hold it a little bit higher, like this, you don't really feel the weight of the pen because it balances out nicely. Personally, I usually hold it, first of all, lining up the clip. Personally, I usually hold it as an extension of my finger, and this works nicely. However, personally, as I don't really use the cap. Going back to the body of the pen, as you probably noticed, this it's actually threaded on. Doesn't take long. I usually don't count the turns. I don't see the point of it. The way I usually open these type of pens is by torquing both ends. Again, so basically to screw it in, I just go like this. To screw it out, I just go like this, and it's out. And usually, even if it's like 2.5 turns from this move, I'm already done. It doesn't take a long time to remove it, and that's the reason why I usually don't count the turns. It doesn't make sense to me. Okay, going back to the body of the pen, it seems like it has a number 6 nib, which actually has some nice designs on it. The nib is dual tone, and it comes in the version that I got. It's an extra fine. Okay, there you go. Extra fine has a Hondian inscription and a Chinese table. I believe that it's an actual Chinese temple, but I do apologize. I do not know what temple that is. Feel free to comment in the description and correct me on what I said. Anyway, the shape of the nib, it has a very classic look. I like it, and it matches the pen quite very well. It seems. I mean, to me, it looks perfect. The section, it's almost like a very faint hourglass. It tapers out a little bit and then tapers in at the end. And the nib, it's an actual nib unit that you can unscrew. I've added a little bit of silicone grease, but the actual nib unit comes with an O-ring here and an O-ring here. And there's another O-ring at the end there that seals against this side. You'll probably see that the pen is a little bit wet. I've recently washed it. I've tested with ink to see how it actually works and make sure that the piston works properly. The nib unit, especially after I added the silicone grease, screws in very nice and smooth. Not a lot of issues in there. Continue down, ink window, translucent body. You can actually see the converter inside, and as you move the piston, not the converter, you can see it in there, and you can see it moving up and down. He has a very interesting design. He has this black portion at the top of the piston. So basically, from what I can see, the O-ring is somewhere in here. Hold on. I lost the focus in here. There you go. Got it back. The O-ring for the piston, it's somewhere in here, but this has this black protrusion that goes into the pen. It seems like the window in here, it's a little bit not heavier. I meant to say thicker between compared with the piston body. And in order not to get like a huge gap of air in here, they introduced this black protrusion that comes out of the piston and kind of goes against the O-ring. The black protrusion basically seals quite nicely that section of the ink window, and that ensures that your body will get filled with ink quite nicely with very little air at the top once you're done. With the ink that I'm going to be using, you'll probably not even see it because, as you probably can see, I already tried to ink this fountain pen. I already had ink in it, and I had a Noodler's black ink. And basically, it feel like it stained a little bit the window. That's one of the things that I probably will be difficult to do, cleaning it. I mean, it is serviceable. Going back to the piston at the top, you will see that it has two grooves inside there on each side of that ring. So basically, you have a wrench that sits flat with two prongs in there. You put it in there, you tie down the piston on it, and then you loosen it, turning it towards the left. Unfortunately, I do not have this type of wrench. Looks like I'll have to buy one eventually. There's no rush. But I cannot demonstrate how you can take the piston out. However, the good thing is that the piston already comes, I assume, with silicone grease on it, because this it's very, very smooth. The smoothest that it has, it's very similar with the Pelican M200 that I have. It just glides, and I like that. Other than that, I think that's about it about the fountain pen. These threads in here, they're very nicely smoothed out. I don't really feel them. They don't cut in my skin. And again, for my writing position, it's somewhere in here. So my finger is resting here. My middle finger is under a support, and my thumb sits a little bit higher in here. And this is my writing position. Now, before even inking it, another thing that I was very pleasantly surprised by is that this nib, even though it's extra fine, and this one actually looks like an extra fine, and hopefully will write like one. So even though this this nib, it's extra fine, even on the paper, it's very smooth. It glides very nicely in every direction. I don't feel anything grabbing on it. I mean, you could probably hear it, but again, it's not scratchy at all. It's very nice, very, very smooth. A little bit toothy maybe, but the right amount of tooth, just so you can feel the paper. Anyway, that's about it. Let me show you how to ink it up, and we'll go from there. Today, since again I'll be doing another sketch, I'll be going back to Noodler's black ink. Fairly easy to fill in. Let me get a piece of paper, tissue I mean. One thing that I noticed is don't try and go too deep in the ink bottle. Only dip it as much as you need to. Don't go all the way to the threads or above the threads, because especially this black ink gets in the threads, and I had a little bit of hard time to clean the threads. So go inside the wink window just about that much. Try and don't put it on the threads. Let me just clean it. I like my nibs clean. Don't ask why. I don't know. It just bugs me if there's ink on the nib. Okay, it's good enough. I've noticed that this Noodler's black tends to stain a little bit. I mean, it does wash, but it's hard to clean it. And it's very visible, especially if you have a light color pen like this. Let me do a quick writing, or more like trying to get a feel of the pen. It's fairly wet. It's definitely, this was the Moonman A1 pen that I was a little bit not impressed by the nib quality. So this is definitely finer than that. So this should be nice to use. I like it. Doesn't seem to have any ink flow issues. Very stiff, not a lot of variation in it, which I kind of like. Nothing wrong with that. And the reverse, kind of dry. This might be interesting for small things, small details like this to use. So in my perspective, definitely usable. Grass, this could be grass right there. Or fur, or whatever you want to use it for. All right. I like it. Let's see how it performs for a little bit longer. All right. So the drawing for today, it will be, or the ink sketch for today, it will be a black eye Susan, a flower. This was actually inspired by one of the pictures that I've done. I'll show it somewhere in here. It's a black and white picture. Obviously, I'm not gonna go for real look like, more like a sketch, an interpretation of it, basically. And I've never drawn this part of the flower. Should be interesting. It has a lot of intricacies in there. Yeah, that's it. Nothing else. I mean, it'll be the flower, white white petals, which are a little bit broken and torn out. This picture was taken during fall, just before winter. This obviously will be heavy black, and I'm actually planning to add a splash of color, which I'm gonna be going back to this one, which was my part of my first video, the Jinhao 51A. I had some questions how this fountain pen is doing. It's pretty much halfway in the ink. I've been using it quite a couple of times, And no leaks, no issues. This is still pretty strong in there. Nothing opens up. Love it. Beautiful pen. And for this one, I'll be actually adding some colors in, a little bit of color in there. And then do some stapling around. And hopefully we'll have some fun. I'll try and finish it now, but because of the stapling, that takes a long time. I might not finish it on camera, but I'll definitely post the finished result, if anything, on my Instagram account. Anyway, enough talking and let's get to it. I'm gonna time lapse this portion. Feel free to skip it, and I'm gonna come back with the conclusion. See you soon. Alright, I am back. I just finished drawing. Actually, I got into it and I ended up finishing it, and unfortunately, the camera ran out of battery. I had to go and grab a new one, but it was already too late when I noticed the camera was out of battery. Fortunately, though, I have my little camera in here, and maybe I can make a nice time lapse with this one. We'll see. I'll try it out, and hopefully, I'll get to share that. In the meantime, what about the fountain pen? Well, the fountain pen actually worked pretty well. There was I had some issue a little bit with the ink flow. I don't know if it was because of the ink or because of the nib. Maybe I need to clean it to floss the tines a little bit. But when I was doing these hashes over here, it feels like it maybe wants to skip a little bit. Not much. If I press hard enough, then it actually writes pretty well. So it seems to be just a little bit on the dry side. Just reaching out for some paper in here. Um, Again, this paper it's mostly well for it's mixed media, so it can take a lot of water. So maybe the nib on this paper tends to be a little bit drier. Other than that, absolutely no issues. I'm testing it here on this paper just to see how it is, and okay, it seemed maybe it was the paper. On this paper seems to be smoother and no actual issues. Okay. One other thing that I noticed is I also put the cap on just to see how it feels to write with it, and especially when I was doing the stapling. And I noticed that this cap actually moves if you grip it too tight. So yeah, that might be one annoying thing about this pen. It sits securely, but if you grab it too tightly or you grab it from higher up, and especially if you have the thumb here and you like press on it, you'll feel moving. I noticed this when I was doing some of the lines and holding it higher. Well, actually, no. I used the cap on mostly when I was doing the stapling. Other than that, ink flow was pretty good. I used a little bit of ink. I still have, I used, I think, about a quarter on this drawing. I still have at least 3/4 left. I enjoyed this little sketch, especially how it turned out with the Jinhao. Still working like a little jump. And I found a reason to use this ink again. I wasn't sure I'm gonna use it again. And this one was again Noodlers ink as well. So final thoughts. I really like the Thunderbird. Um, I wasn't thinking I'm gonna like it this much. I believe there's another blue version as well. I will most probably end up buying that version as well. I like it that much. I might look for a different nib. I mean, I like the nib, but I just want to see if maybe a different nib will give you more of what I want, especially on this type of paper. But if you just use it for writing, I think it will be perfect. Like I was saying, the piston in the on this fountain pen feels a lot like my M200, but the I have cameras issues with focusing. Hold on a second. Okay, hopefully this is better. But as you can see, the size is quite different. Also, the M200 it's way much lighter. However, to give it to the M200, the cap it's much better as well. I might write a review later on if anybody's interested on this little gem. It's actually quite one of my favorites. Should you buy this pen? Yes, personally, I highly recommend that. Actually, to be honest, rather than buy this, which is the previous Schaefer that I reviewed. Just go for this. The pens are very similar in size. Yes, the Schaefer it's a little bit heavier, but this little gem it's a piston filler. Uh, has a very beautiful piston filler. The attention to detail it's much better. The fit and finish it's much better. There's no wiggly nib on it. And let's be honest, both of them were made in the same country pretty much. They're both coming from China. Um, so why pay 60 to 120 depending where you're buying this from, the Schaefer, and just pay $32? Or I mean, with the money that you pay on this, you could buy two of these, right? Anyway, that's my recommendation. Should you buy it if you want a piston filler in acrylic with this kind of look? Yes, personally, I love it, and I think it's gonna become one of my favorite piston fillers. I almost, to be honest with you, I almost recommend it on top of the M200 or M400 even, maybe, depending on the name that you choose to have in the Hongdian. Hongdian. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this new video that I have. I hope you enjoyed the pen and you find it as intriguing as I found it. And I hope you enjoy my little sketch if you took the time to look through the time lapse. Thank you again for joining me, and I guess I'll be seeing you in the next video. In the next video, I'm actually planning to redeem the Schaefer's virtue a little bit by talking on one of my vintage fountain pens that I have from Schaefer. Anywho, thanks a lot for joining me. I'll see you the next time. Take care. Bye.